Hello and welcome to
Hey, we like your pod.
And we're going to tell you why. Hi, it's Dawn here, joined by my trusted partner, Matt Pickett. So, Maddie, how was your week?
Pretty good, pretty good. My kids are on spring break this week, so I took a few days off to hang out with them. A little at home, a little back at work, so kind of like mixing it up, which has been nice to have some downtime, time to play with the kids. My younger one turned 6 this week, which is crazy. Apart from that stuff, just kind of dealing with a cough kind of happening still. Last week, I remember I mentioned that I was feeling a little ill last week, feeling a lot better this week. Just a cough is, that's all pretty much left. But otherwise, it's getting nicer outside, and just having the extra time with my family this week has been great. So how about you, Dawn? How are you doing this week?
Well, that's awesome. Your voice sounds a little different. So, for our listeners,
Thank you.
Maddie
That's a good thing, I guess.
Maddie has swollen punching bags. Little
punching bags. What are you talking about?
You open up your mouth super wide and you look inside, you see those little punching bags that hang down.
Okay. I'm not going to do that on camera, but that kind of podcast.
Now I'm laughing at the way you sound. I'm sorry. When I get sick, they'll get swollen and red, and then my voice changes.
Oh.
So, yes. So I call it swollen punching bags.
Swollen punching bags.
So I'm okay. Sorry, just forgot it was my turn. I am okay. I am looking forward to Monday picking up LaFleur. No, not that LaFleur.
I was like, what are you talking about exactly?
Pepe LaFleur should be here on Monday, hopefully, and the apartment is almost 100% ready. His little quarantine room. Mm-hmm. Pepe LaFleur is Tasha's soon-to-be adopted brother.
Very exciting.
She's actually, he's older than her, but she's going to be like the big sister because he's only 7 pounds and he's full grown.
Oh, wow. So
she's going to be bigger. I thought, so she's going to be like the big sister. And I think she knows something's up for sure. Mm-hmm. And it's been interesting. But with cats, you have to kind of introduce them carefully. He's from out of town, so I have to set up a room for him. And also, it's good to quarantine them for at least 2 weeks. So his wellness checkup is scheduled. So LaFleur is on his way. So I'm excited about that. A little nervous, but also excited. Mm-hmm. And as far as my previous pastimes, I've mentioned my obsession with true crime and trials, been following trials, picked up another one this week, and I think I finally got it out of my system. Because wow, people do really dumb things. And
universally, yes.
And some people are genuinely awful. I never believed that. And I'm like, today I finally had to turn off this trial I was watching because I was getting so mad. I was like, how can you be so awful? And then I'm glad I did have this little rendezvous with court trials, because I'm also seeing how extraordinarily flawed the legal justice system is, that the court system is. Oh my gosh.
That's been on my mind too. That's funny you say that, because I've been thinking about just the injustice inherent in the system. Not to get off on a huge tangent about that, but wow. Sometimes you have your eyes open to it, and it's just shocking.
It's chilling, and we know broadly it is, but to see okay, for this reason we can't talk about that, and this reason we're going to do that, and this motion, and then to see the biases right there playing out, it's just, I was starting to really get angry. I'm not an angry person, so I wasn't comfortable with that emotion. So okay, no more. Sometimes, I mean, I shouldn't say sometimes, for the most part, I listen to my podcasts and to my YouTubes while I'm doing other things,
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, I was just getting worked up, and I was like, I don't want that. I think I'll put some
Yeah.
music on. Yeah. So this is what happens when we don't have football. I just go
Get on these
astray.
rabbit holes.
I know.
Get on these rabbit holes of like terrible people. Yeah,
And
wow.
I'm not gonna yeah, it just and I think you get to the point in your life. I'm trying not to say anything about my age. You get to the point where you're like, oh, I know that that situation in court, I had something like this happen, or I was, that person did like this person did, and that, and I remember, and it's just like, wow, you really do realize, yeah, I've seen a lot in my life, and it's just, those are things I don't want to repeat. Like when you've seen injustice right under your nose, just minding your own business, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, to have that be a thing you're like actively listening to, and just having that like in your ears.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
I was like, nope, none of that. I'm done. So anybody who's interested in trying true crime, well, I'll probably still listen to the true crime stories. That, but the court trials, I got off on.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a different thing entirely, because true crime, it's like listen to this crazy yarn versus like trials. That's real. That's like, yeah. Then you get that feeling of the injustice, and no, not for me.
Yeah, and I'm still interested in law.
Yeah.
And when I was going to study law, and I never was going to study criminal law, never, because I don't have the makeup for that. So I'm still interested. I'm still going to follow what's happening with certain cases, because the overall, sense of justice is important. And I'm not going to lose my curiosity over it, but I'm just not going to watch trials. I don't think, but you never know. I might be back here next week talking about another trial that I just have to watch. But both, the one I closed the laptop, I was like, it's mid trial, but it'll probably end next week. I'm still kind of interested in the outcome, but I kind of unfortunately feel like it's a little bit not fixed, but a foregone conclusion. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully justice will be served. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be nice.
So I was going to mention the ones, but it's like I'm not even going to mention the new one that I started on that just got me like triggered, would probably be the best way to say it. So apart from that, we have superlatives. We've had quite a fun week, which we'll get into when we do our superlatives, Maddie. So how about let's get started?
Yeah, so we're going to try going back and forth, trading off instead of doing each of us doing our 3 in a row. So, dear listeners, we're going to do our best to see how this works. It's an experiment tonight, so we'll see how it goes. Do you want to do the first one, Dawn, or should I?
Oh, I think you should start, because you're just so much better.
Better? What's that about? Oh. So my first one, I don't know what you mean by that at all. My first one is going to be Best Insight. Okay, so here's the deal, right? If you listen to this show with any regularity, there are certain names that keep coming up, and if I were listening to this show, I'd be like, why are you always talking about, say, Sam Holman? Well, the reason why I'm always talking about Sam Holman is because Sam Holman always writes amazing stuff. There are definitely things that like he might write, or other people like say like Dusty might do, or like people who we talk about a lot that John Meerdink might do, that I'm like, I can't use that one this week. We talked about him last week, but Sam, stop being so good, because it makes it hard for me to find other stuff when I need to talk about the things that you write that are so amazing. So here's what Sam Holman did in the last week. I think it came out on Friday, so it was just after we had recorded for the last episode, since we record on Thursdays. So Sam Holman, anyhow, had this article for Wisconsin Sports Heroics. It was called Film Review: What Does Jarran Reed Bring to the Packers? So here we have, this new player that we as fans like mostly don't know a lot about, in Jarran Reed, and we're like, well, it seems like this is maybe a big deal that we got him, but like, who is this guy? So like,
Mhm.
what does he bring to it? And then someone like Sam comes along and is like, oh, here is what he can bring, but it's not just that. It's not just that. Sam goes, and here's film to back it up, and here are these different areas in which he has strengths, and here's how he can be a good fit for the team. And by the end of it, you're going, man, I'm like a Jarran Reed expert now, all because of like this detailed work that Sam put into it. So, man, Sam, I don't know if you actually listen to the show, or if you just like say thanks when we mention you, but if you're listening,
Stop it.
dude, dude, I love your work, and I think those of us out there who are actually paying attention and reading it are much better off for engaging with it, for reading your stuff, for consuming it. So huge thanks, man. You're making us all better Packers fans.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Matt, for telling us about that article, because when we got Jarran, I was like, okay, why am I excited about this? And I started
Right.
kind of clicking around a little bit. But yeah, it brings, I haven't now, of course, as usual, I will, if I have most of Matt's superlatives, I haven't checked out myself. So then it gives me a place to go, which is kind of the point of this show. Kind of helps stream. I'm like your best test subject, really. I don't know anything. So, and there's just so much out there. So Sam's film review is going to be super interesting. And I didn't have time to look at Jarran. I was genuinely curious though.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I know right where to go.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of those great things where it's like, it's not a time sensitive news article, right? It's
Right.
not like if you saw it a week later, be like, oh, that's old news. Like, you can look at this stuff like the day before the season starts and be like,
That's
oh,
right.
that's who this guy is. So it's just one of those like timeless, I mean, not perfectly timeless, but timeless for like many months, that could still,
Yeah.
you could still go back and check it out. So
Yeah.
yeah, what do you got, Don?
Yeah. So why to be excited about Jarran? So I'm going to start with the most Facebooky Twitter tool, and just that communities. And now everybody's starting their communities and inviting to communities. And because of your encouragement last week, Matt, we now have Packers Pets
Woo.
community, and finally figured out the settings. It's not finally, I just haven't had a lot of time. I figured out the settings so that anyone who's a Packer fan or an NFL fan, because we're nice to everybody,
Mm-hmm.
And you want to show off your pet or any of your pet projects, wink wink, I'm trying to take some pictures of mine. I have opened a Packers community on Packers Pets, and we'll have it in the notes, and we'll put it on the Twitter. Hey, we like your pod page. Lots of P's going on here. And so because you encouraged me to, I took a quick shot of the tunnels that I built for the cat. So the cat, now I will have two on Monday, hopefully. I have two cats. They will have another level to play on and also get away from one another, which is important for cats.
Mm-hmm.
They need to have their space. And so I started by putting invisible shelving along everywhere, not everywhere, but a whole section of part of my loft. And so that's 8.5 feet high in the air. And I wanted to make sure Tosh was old enough to go up there. She's pretty tentative, surprisingly, but she did have that one injury. Yeah. So thankfully, she's not an idiot and just re-injuring herself. But what's super interesting, if you're a cat lover, she takes on a whole different personality when she's up high in the air. Like, I noticed it when I built another little pet project for, which I won't get into, but it's about 6 feet up. But when they get higher up, so animals, if you have an animal at home, I'm a big believer in trying to give them the kind of environment that is for them, not just for humans. Because whether it's a dog or a gerbil or whatever it is that you have, they have specific needs. And when you do that, or at least what I've noticed is I haven't had like my cat shredding up my furniture or any of those things. I used to have Scottish Deerhounds, which is the third largest breed in the world, ahead. So if you keep them busy doing the things that they like, and you don't try to force them to be a human, basically, you're going to have, it's a lot more enjoyable. But it's also, you're going to see how they are more like, in this case, a cat should be. But it's kind of funny. So yeah, so I've tried my best to put some pictures up, and I've got some prototypes I've been building out of cardboard and things with my friend's help, of course, because I'm pretty bad. I'm good at designing, not so great at execution. So yeah, so having fun with the communities. So so we have the Packers community that
Tyler Herrick started.
Yep, and it's growing, and that's really cool.
It is cool. Yeah, that's fun to hang out on.
It is. And one, I think it was Jamie who commented yesterday. So now I'm spending all this time in my communities, and now I'm ignoring my timeline. So the reason I said it was the most Facebooky thing, it's like, I'm not sure what the benefit is, but I was just getting to the point where I was going to start posting pictures of my cat anyway. But not everybody maybe wants to see your cat. Maybe some people don't like cats. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. Enjoying the communities. So yeah. So what else do you have for us, Maddie?
Yeah, so for my second one, I wanted to talk about the Athletic Football Show, which has become really one of my favorite podcasts in the last, I don't know, pretty much this calendar year, kind of the end of last calendar year, I really started getting into it. So that's the one that Robert Mays does, often with Nate Tice, but with a rotating group of co-hosts. Shukapadia, Lindsay, what's her last name? Lindsay someone, oops, and a couple others. But anyhow, one of the episodes this week was, let me see, the title was An Intro to the 2022 NFL Draft Class with Dane Brugler. So Dane Brugler, well-known draft guy, nationally known. So it was basically Dane Brugler talking to Robert Mays about, like, here is the, like, setting the table for the draft, because Robert Mays is like a self-professed draft idiot. So it's like, here is like the intro. Here's setting the table. Here's some of the big names to know about, some of the positions that we'll be seeing going in the first round, especially potentially first 2 rounds. Some big names to know, some kind of comparisons between some of these big ones and these different, like, positions. So just a really, really good intro to just what's happening this year in the draft for somebody who doesn't know a lot about it, which definitely that would include me. Not one of those hardcore draft guys that's out there. And there are so many great people out there doing great work. So it was a really enjoyable, hour of just intro to that stuff. So, so that was going to be best place to start. That's Robert Mays and Dane Brugler on the Athletic Football Show from earlier this week on the 29th.
Very nice. And that is a great intro to my most fun for the week, which was Andrew Mertig's mock draft annual thing now, I guess. And so he invited the first, I guess, however many of it, first to invite to respond to his invitation to participate in the mock draft. So then we all got assigned our teams. So we're not all drafting for the team that we're following, right? In fact, only one person can do that. So what I appreciate, there's so many things I appreciate about doing this. First of all, it's fun. It's a great way to learn about some of these names that might be on our team's board, or might even be drafted, or maybe not, hopefully. But what I really love is, because I like to take a more holistic approach to my fandom and football fandom. And that is, for example, I got assigned the Lions, and so the Lions had the number 2 pick and the 32nd pick. So I got 2 picks, which was pretty cool. And that might not be something that I would be paying that much attention to, because there's only so much time in the day. And so what participating in a mock draft does, and there's so many you can do, and you can just do the simulators online too if you want on your own. By doing that, I feel like I'm appreciating another team, and especially in this case, it's in our division, right? And so I'm getting to know their team. I'm reminding myself who's on the team, what they need, why they need them. And I just feel like I develop more empathy for other teams that way, and just more appreciation for the sport in general. And by by taking on as a GM. And God help the Lions if they were ever to hire me as a GM, because I do feel like I completely screwed it up. I was like, oh, it's like I can't. For about a year, I was a buyer in the fashion industry. And when it's like, you can't just buy everything, right? So you have to, so it's like, well, I want this and I want that and I want this. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go with my number 2 pick as the quarterback. And then as soon as I did it, I was like, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. I should have done the other thing. And because everyone was taking the edges and I needed an edge really bad too for the Lions. The Lions really need an edge. And the best ones are gone. The ones that was left, actually, he wasn't even left. I almost traded up for the best one on the board, so to speak. I wouldn't have taken because he got injured at the combine, and it was an Achilles tear, I believe. So that takes a long time to heal. So I wouldn't want to draft in the first round an injured player, maybe in the third or something like that. So I felt like I made myself think it through. And at that level, when I eventually went with quarterback and didn't get the edge, I was like, maybe I should have gotten the edge, because I didn't realize how many of them were going to fly through. And I should have known that, because I did read ahead that everybody kind of needs an edge. So anywho, I just feel
it's a
like
position to boot anyhow. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's some really, 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 really good ones. And so the cool thing is it helps me appreciate all the teams in the NFL. It makes me a better fan that way. And it's also cool to just kind of do a little bit of research about some of these players that are coming up. And that doesn't mean, I know some people are like, why are you speculating about, I know there's some argument going on about that. It's just fun. It's like a game, right? It's just a play game. It's not real, people. So calm down. I think that a lot of people are passionate. It's kind of cool if people are passionate about getting certain players, but in the end, we don't know anyway until they start playing. We're super excited. I was super excited about Amari Rodgers. I still am for the future, but expected him to be play ready the first season, and maybe didn't have the kind of results a lot of us had hoped for, and that's what's going to happen. It's kind of like 50-50 chance that somebody's going to be who we really think they are. Anyway, so it was fun. It wasn't overly serious, and I can't wait to and thank you again, Andrew, and I can't wait for his podcast, the Pack a Day podcast with Andrew, Maggie, and I just lost my brain. Thank you. Sorry, that's embarrassing. On Friday, because he's going to talk about what everybody did, and I feel like and then also Andrew did, which I tried to participate. He did another mock draft, like in a Twitter space. I don't know. You weren't there, I don't think, Matt. And I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah. Twitter spaces, when they hold those, that's always when I'm like doing dishes or whatever.
Exactly. So I was like, oh, I just got home. I'm starving. I'm trying to eat. And it was so funny because I was like, it really made me appreciate what draft night is for the professionals, because I was like, I can't make my brain work like that. Plus I was still thinking about my Lions. And so he was like on the fly saying, who wants to take this team and who wants to take that team? And I was like, oh, my brain just broke, because I can't think about 2 different drafts at the same time, which is kind of what you're doing on that night as a professional. You're like having to consider the whole picture. So great learning experience. Did it last year. Can't wait to do it again next year. I'm already. And it's just also a great way to, appreciate the off season, which clearly I need, because I can't watch trials anymore.
Yeah, I think that the rise of mock drafts, and the greater accessibility for people to do it, like with mock draft simulators and stuff like that, is just another really fun way to, dig into your fandom, to understand the bigger picture, to just get more excited about it. And I think we had talked before about how Ryan Schlipp, a couple weeks ago, was like, hey, this is just for fun. Like,
right.
If you're going to think you need to go trying to tell somebody they're stupid for what they like don't bother with that. This is all just for fun, so just enjoy it. And like that's exactly it. Like we both had a lot of fun with this mock draft with Andrew, and thanks again, Andrew, for hosting that again. I'm really looking forward to seeing like you said, like what he's going to say about his reactions to people's picks, his sort of evaluation of what people did. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons, we talked before in a previous week about part of the reason why we dig so much into content during the season is like we have these like concerns about the team. Are they going to win this week? Like maybe if I listen to stuff and helps me process it, I'll feel like less anxious about things, right? And so I feel like that's part of the psychology for a lot of people who really dig into the draft, because they want to be able to like prognosticate what their team is going to do. Like they want to try to read the future so they have less anxiety about it. But of course with the draft
Right.
I mean, like, first of all, the people who are actual GMs and like in the war rooms doing these things, it is like 7-dimensional chess they're playing, because like you're saying, they have to think about like the context of what other people might take, trying to like worry about the gamesmanship behind it and like make sure they still get the people they need. And yeah, so like why do some people dig into the draft so much? I think it's just to calm some of the anxiety about like what is going to happen. I want to understand it better before it happens, so I'm not so like surprised and fearful about it.
Yeah.
For some people.
yeah, that kind of makes sense. That's a great analysis. It does make sense, like just a sense of more control, even though you're not really controlling. Even the GMs aren't control. Like I said, like everybody knows they can do their very best. I think going through it, I feel really appreciative of what it takes. And so then when there are people out there saying, well, why do you do that? Why do you do that? It's like, I think they, first of all, people are human and there's no such thing as perfection. But, I think people are paid a lot of money to do the best they can. And they generally do the best they can, even when they're not paid a lot of money, honestly. I like to give people a benefit of the doubt, which is why, again, I'm not going to watch trials anymore, because it's like everything keeps coming back to that. Oh my gosh. So Maddie, what is your final superlative for us?
So I believe our last one we have some overlap in, which is exciting. This week, there was a really great interview. This is going to be actually best interview is my category here. This goes to Aaron Nagler's appearance on the Wednesday Pack-A-Day. So, of course, Wednesday, that's with, Dusty and Sarah. I almost said Dusty, Steve, and Sarah. I had to stop myself. Steve is just on break. Hopefully he'll be back. So, it was a really interesting interview, I thought, because, Aaron Nagler is this, like, very public figure within the Packers fandom beyond just Twitter, because a lot of people who are on Twitter, do spend time on like Cheesehead TV's website and like consume a lot of the content directly there. He's just a guy who like everyone knows who he is, basically. If you're a Twitter's fan who's kind of like plugged into stuff, you have come across Aaron Nagler at some point. So to hear the interview with him where they're asking about some of like the sort of the behind the scenes stuff, what kinds of things goes into like running Cheesehead TV basically, was really fascinating to me, because it's like things I wouldn't have thought about. Like he basically has to kind of be like a coach, has to keep things running, has to deal with like just the dumb little things like finding, I think the example is like finding like the most appealing thumbnails for like a video for like the new site they're like flipping over to, whoever it was. And it sounds like a lot of this sort of like grunt work, and not like the fun stuff of like writing about the team necessarily, or like talking about the team, because there's so much other just kind of like garbage that goes with keeping a train on the tracks. And so that part of the interview is particularly fascinating, but like the whole thing was really great. I really enjoyed hearing the interactions between Aaron and between our pals, both friends of the show, Dusty and Sarah. And so you want to talk about that episode too, right?
It was great. It was really great. I loved the questions that Dusty and Sarah brought to Aaron, and just he's got a great energy. Aaron Nagler was probably the first, once I started getting like, okay, I want to understand what's going on. I'm actually a fan now, and I don't know what I'm like, what am I looking at, kind of thing, and what's going on on YouTube. I still follow Aaron regularly, but he was my first, and then I think came like Tom Grassi and then Pack-A-Day. through that. But he's I mean, he's such a unique personality. I love that he's himself. And he reminded the audience in there too that he's an acting background, that he studied that. And I forgot about that. But yeah, he's super fun. And so my superlative is the most surprising take. And that was Aaron Nagler's take on the question about how the media, the beat writers and such, that the NFL media in general, not just Packers beat, but are going to transition post-COVID or at this point, right? And he mentioned, and I'm almost quoting him when I say, he said that the NFL, and this intrigued me, and it surprised me, and maybe I should say most intriguing take, but the NFL missed a real opportunity to reimagine media access to teams. And he got into, the locker room chats and all of that. And that again was on the Pack-A-Day. Wasn't it Tuesday? I don't know. I can't remember.
No, it was Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay. So I want him to expound on that. I want more about his ideas on how he would reimagine the NFL beat writers' press availability, and as far as open locker rooms and other things, because it sounded to me like there was more meat on that bone. And I hate that phrase because I'm a vegan, but I just said it. And I don't know where it comes from. Sometimes I say
there's more tofu in that box.
Ew. So I want more Aaron Nagler. I want more about that. So I'm going to have to jump on his YouTube channel or on his Twitter and see if he'll expound on that. Maybe he'll even come here. That would be a big thing. One of the things he reminded them, and I thought it was great, was with a couple of things. First of all, he was like my first love as far as Packers coverage. And I remember vividly about his daughter Olive wanting a dog. And he was talking about that. And I was like, my gosh, she doesn't have a dog yet. But evidently there were some conditions about Rodgers coming. I missed that part. And so I've been following that for a few years, actually. And so I'm super excited about Olive getting a dog, and we will definitely invite that dog to our Packers Pets community on Twitter as well. But super, yay, Olive. Good for you for, I mean, I remember when he was just saying flat out, no. She even made an appearance on one of his YouTube. And he's like, no, you're not getting it. So I think that's adorable. But also he mentioned how Aaron Rodgers and I forgot about that whole, how Aaron Rodgers has never been on their show. Like, what?
Even Coach LaFleur's been in there a couple of times, I think.
I know. I was there for that. I had that timer reminder set for that. Okay. So I think the campaign to get Olive a dog, the campaign to get Rodgers on that show. And I know there's been a campaign, but the Cheesehead TV machine is fantastic. And it was super fun to hear that discussion and all the little backstories behind human beings. And last but not least, I didn't put this in my notes, Matt, but thankfully I remembered the question that you presented to them, but his answer to your question. And that kind of blew me away. And it was, what is your favorite question you got from your audience over the years? And I loved that he just mentioned kind of the genre of the questions being anything that kind of takes them off the normal Packers questions and into maybe their personal life or something, like makes them think. And I thought that was also super fascinating. I forgot the example he gave. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was like somebody just asks him out of nowhere, like, what's your favorite Led Zeppelin album?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah. I need to actually stop and think, like, what is the actual answer? As opposed to like just a typical sort of football question, the kind of thing that he like just kind of thinks about all the time, but it has like a defined thing for him. As opposed to, I'm just stop and think about, like, what is my favorite Led Zeppelin album? Which, by the way, the right answer is Houses of the Holy, for those who don't know.
Hello. Yes. Probably one of my favorite albums all time. Although I'm
top five all time.
Top five. Pink Floyd. Yeah. I'm a Pink Floyd like well, anyway, let's not. Yeah. So that's the thing. And I think what I loved about his answer to is, it brings you into the personal side, behind the scenes, and again, that's what we're all really about. I mean, of course we're here to talk about the Packers, but again, that's all about community and the humanity behind, players, fans, and the whole Twitter sphere. And so I just love that question, and I loved his answer. So, and the most surprising take, I guess intriguing, really, now that I think about it, I'm curious what other things he might have to say about how they could reimagine, the media coverage in the NFL in general. I'd like to hear.
And I was gonna say, I think that was especially fascinating because you could hear that like Dusty and Sarah both were like, "Yeah, this is great. Like the beat writers have access to the players in the locker rooms again," which like I think to anybody who hasn't done that,
Right.
it's like, yes, we can actually get like those relationships established. They can have like those like that better access to write those really cool stories with like those relationships they build. But like Aaron Nagler's thing was like, well, no, because the ones who like don't want to be interviewed will find ways to not be interviewed in that. And it's weird that they're coming out like from the shower in various states of undressing, like people with microphones and stuff.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it is just kind of like he described it as being like a circus. Like everyone is shoving their mics in the guy's face, and so you're just getting like these kind of generic quotes from most of them most of the time.
Right.
That maybe some reporter from a news station needs like a soundbite for the for the 10 o'clock sports part, and so you don't necessarily get a chance to ask those more interesting in-depth questions, just because everyone's like kind of there. So I was really surprised by that because he was like, no, this isn't great that it's locker room access again. It doesn't really make a difference. Like it's not better. I was very surprised at that. So yeah, no, I totally agree. It was a very intriguing take.
It was intriguing. Now I'm thinking, okay, maybe teams could, like rotate or alternate and give, because he's not getting the kind of access maybe that this is Cheesehead TV. He's not even getting how long did he say he's been trying to get an interview with Aaron Rodgers for 15 years, and every year he goes through the process of requesting it from the media or the PR team at the Packers and all that stuff. And it's like, I wonder what ideas he has. I mean, just off the top of my head, I know nothing about this business or a little, but yeah, maybe some kind of rotation. Obviously, how many people he qualifies in terms of followers and who's listening. He'd have
he has the media credentials. Like he's in the Zoom media availability things. Like he's able to ask questions to Aaron Rodgers and to the coach and to everybody else. But to get what does he need to have in place for them to actually let Aaron Rodgers be on his show? Yeah, I mean it's a good question.
Right, because a lot of our beat writers, most people aren't familiar with, but most people who are Packers fans know where to go for Cheesehead TV, wherever they're going for, whether it's their website or YouTube or whatever, right? So and plus the media, whoever's covering the Packers can change from year to year, like whatever, the Athletic, or they can change their personnel. So now they're having the same amount of access as the previous. I don't know. It just, I'd be really interested to hear that. So we're going to call out on that. We're going to find out. What do you mean, Aaron Nagler? And on Olive's dog.
I wonder if it's a little different too, because your kind of like standard beat writers typically are not necessarily fans of the team. As we talked about before. That's obviously right. Aaron Nagler's a big fan of the team. Yeah. All the people doing anything for Cheesehead TV for Pack a Day, like they're going to be Packers fans. That's why they're doing it. But compare with like Matt Schneidman, who's not necessarily a Packers fan, but has that kind of really high level access as a media member. So I wonder if there's anything up with that. I don't know if there would be though. I don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know about it. So like you're saying,
now we want to know more.
A lot of tofu left in the box still.
We want to know more. So it was a great question, Maddie. Great answer, Aaron Nagler. Sorry, Nagler. And my cat is literally, you can't hear her, but she is screaming at me right now.
Dawn, I'm sorry. One more thing I was going to say. Sorry. And you had mentioned how Aaron Nagler is one of the like first kind of people that you encountered like when you're looking for more content and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Same. When I went to go to Twitter to find more stuff, it was actually Aaron and Dusty were the two people whose, for whatever reason, their tweets were kind of showing up like right away. And I was like, well, these people seem kind of like they know a lot because they do.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out. So it's kind of funny because those were
Yeah.
the original two people that like inadvertently drew me into Packers Twitter, and
Yeah.
here we are now. So
Here we
anyhow,
are
sorry
now.
to interrupt.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah, I think for me it was Nagler and Grassi because I was on YouTube. And
Mm-hmm.
once you start consuming, if you're listening and you're kind of new to trying to find your home, homes, because we all have our favorites and who we
Mm-hmm.
relate to. There's nothing that doesn't disparage anyone, but you'll start to get fed suggestions. And and that's when I was like, and then I looked at their website and I'm like, oh my God, there's so much out here. Like,
Yes.
yes. And I wanted to like take it all in, and it was a little overwhelming. Thus, we spawned this show.
And here we are now.
And as far as your superlative on the best interview, it was what a way to take off for a vacant. What a send off for Dusty, Steve, and Sarah. Like, what a way to make their imprint before they take their month and a half off from their show. So if you're listening to us and you're looking for next week's Pack a Day on Wednesday, you might find different hosts, but just temporarily. And we're going to miss them. I remember when they took off last year, I was depressed. I was like, what? They're leaving?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
I know. I was like, oh, man. Wait a couple months, a month and a half to hear them again. I know.
Yeah, but good for them. And of course, we can reach out to them on Twitter and so on. All that'll be in our show notes, of course. But yeah, super fun. What a great week. And thank you for the send off. And now we're officially, we're in the draft. We're countdown. What is it? 3 weeks to the draft now? Or is it 4?
I think I should know this.
I should know it too. I think I put it in the
4-ish weeks ish, right?
4. It's 4. I just checked. I put it in my notes because I'm counting down and I keep taking a week off because I'm so excited.
Right.
So like last week I said it was 4 and it was 5, and I'm like, now I said it was 3. This is 4. So 4 more weeks.
4 weeks.
Here we go. It's exciting. And the next thing you know, we'll be playing football again. Or at least at practice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Maddie, how about some final thoughts? We have some things to look forward to, don't we, next week?
Yeah, next week we do have a really fun guest coming up. As of this point, we are slated to have my good friend Todd Varney joining us. So can't wait for that. Literally one of my favorite people I've met through Twitter. So really looking forward to it. And other than that, we're going to have, I think the next few weeks we'll have guests, actually the next 3 weeks if I remember correctly. So some really great guests coming up for that. Excited to talk to all of them. And excited to share those conversations with you listeners whom we love so much.
We do. We love you so much, and we appreciate you. And we appreciate you joining us here. We're both so glad to know you, to be fans of you, and to have the luxury of being fans of the most storied team in the NFL. We appreciate your support, your subscriptions, and sharing our pod. And we look forward to seeing you next week on
Hey, we like your pod. We like Andrew Murray's.
Oh, Andrew!
Football in general comes down to discipline and people owning their roles. And when you aren't disciplined or you go outside the scheme, bad stuff happens.